Ah, the revenge western. The kind of movie that requires more testosterone than current-day Hollywood can muster. A lone stranger sauntering into town, trusty lever rifle in his saddle, and starts dispatching retribution to those most deserving. Given the current fuck-around climate, it's exactly what we need right now, but trusting Tinseltown with anything more masculine or complex than a goldfish is asking for trouble. That's where the 2014 film The Dark Valley comes in. A gritty, bloody, and somber Austrian western that delivers plenty of find-out energy. Granted, it's sparse on lead-slinging action, but when firing pin finally strikes primer, the movie delivers in bloody fashion. And I would probably say this is for the best. This film is one of those slow burn type dramas that spends time building up intrigue, relying on tension and a grim atmosphere to keep things engaging. It makes the actions feel earned and gives the interactions between a talented cast impact. It has its problems though. There were some questionable choices made later in the movie that had me scratching my head. That exposition dump near the end of Act 2 sapped a good portion of intrigue out of the later parts and would have benefited from a bit of redrafting. Also, what the fuck, Sam Riley? How did you go from this to Maleficent? If you need your agent waterboarded for that travesty, I know a guy.
Stop him!
Anyway, let's dive into the plot. After a short prologue, we open on Grider arriving in a remote village looking to stay the winter to capture some landscapes. He has good taste. The scenery throughout this film is gorgeous. It takes a bit of cajoling, but eventually Old Man Brenner, the village patriarch, allows him to stay. Grider is put up on a small farm with Lucy, our narrator during those exposition dumps, and her mother. While out running some errands with Lucy, he has a run-in with a couple of Brenner's sons, who spend their free time running roughshod over whomever they please. Even Lucy begs him to leave while he still can. Undaunted, Grider keeps working on those landscapes. Then Lucy makes a request. A photo of her and her betrothed Lucas that has to be taken before their wedding. Odd request, why not the day of? Regardless, Grider obliges. The movie handles intrigue very well in the first half, and this request, although it appears benign, has significant meaning once more is revealed. Anyhow, winter arrives, and while out cutting firewood with the rest of the men, Brenner's youngest son dies. Dangerous work logging, and accidents happen, or so it would seem. It's not until Rudolph goes missing on a hunting trip and is found dead days later with nails in his eyes that people realize something is up. Yeah, not a pleasant way to go. It's clear Grider is more than he appears to be. Unfortunately for his pursuers, he is one step ahead of them, vanishing into the wilderness without a trace. From here we pick up on the B-plot surrounding Lucy and her upcoming marriage. Neither she nor her groom are particularly ecstatic, and it's a bit more than the usual prenuptial jitters. Once the priest delivers his sermon, the reason is obvious. See, Brenner enforces prima nocte. That means Lucas gets sloppy seconds and Lucy's first child won't belong to her husband. Yet, this is just how things are done in the valley. Nobody objects, nobody resists. Well, there was one who did, and everyone remembered what happened. That is revealed shortly after the ceremony wraps up. Grider appears, looking to confess to the priest. He admits to the killings and reveals his parentage. This is that exposition dump I mentioned. The short of it is this. Grider is Brenner's son. His mother used to live in the village, and during the night she was taken by the lecher, her groom came for her and they tried to flee. However, they did not get far, sold out by the innkeepers while hiding, and both were punished. The groom was beaten with a wheat thresher and crucified. Grider's mother managed to escape, never to be seen again, and in retaliation, her parents were murdered. I really wish the movie didn't blow its load like this. Killed the intrigue around Grider, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. With all the details laid out, Grider gives the priest a .44 caliber skull piercing. Over at the reception, things are, going well?
Find more cheer in a graveyard.
About as well as one could expect. After a bit of merrymaking, it's time for Lucy to be carted off to Brenner. However, Grider intercepts the group. He disarms Brenner's sons, tells Lucy to run, then lets his captives go while challenging them to a final showdown. This is what I meant about questionable choices towards the end. Why not just cap these fools when you have them dead to rights? The only rifle trained on Grider was taken by Lucy before she ran off. Finish them. Nah, whatever. So Grider rides off to make sure Lucy is safe and then decides to do a bit of hazing on the innkeepers. Which, yeah, no, I get it, completely makes sense, but he leaves them alive. Or so I would assume. We don't actually see them get killed, so again, scratching my head here. Not like the priest got any leniency. Once he knew who Grider was, kapow. So both sides take a moment to prepare, and Hans, the eldest son, leads his brothers out to get the drop on Grider. Except our boy turns the tables on all four in spectacular fashion. Pro tip, if you need to retreat, you need a base of fire before turning tail. With some smart use of cover, clever tactics, and superior weaponry, Grider finishes off the last of his brothers. This is the only shootout in the movie, but damn, it really hits. It felt earned, had all the proper setup, and was satisfying as hell. With nobody else to stand in his way, Grider heads off to face the old man himself. Except, for some reason, he decides to stop and warm up near a blacksmith forge because now that most of the tension is gone, we need another action scene. Serious question, how hard is it to ambush our protagonist in a way that doesn't make him look like a moron? Anyway, there's a scuffle with the blacksmith and Greider is injured. Then Lucas shows up with the purloined rifle to save the day. Brenner and Greider have a short father-son bonding moment before the Lecher is put out of his misery. Then the movie closes with Greider spending the winter recovering from an infection before riding out in the spring. And that's it. That's the plot for The Dark Valley. As I said, the tone is superb. Grim, somber, and gritty from start to finish. Even the panning landscapes have an air of majesty and isolation. It forms the perfect backdrop to the dour village nestled in the valley. Tension permeates every scene, every interaction. Which is impressive because this movie doesn't rely very much on talking outside of Lutzi's narrations. The most talkative scene I can point to is the priest's sermon, and even that didn't last long. Greider himself barely hits a couple dozen lines of dialogue, and about a third of those were used up when rescuing Lutzi. It's the performances that really sell the tension, and I can't point to anyone that doesn't pull their weight. Every interaction is poignant. Curt exchanges laden with sinister undertones, the wary stares that emphasize suspicion or fear. It really draws you in and focus on what's happening. Good idea to go this route instead of being some cheesy shoot-'em-up. I got nothing against those kinds of films, though. They have their place. And hot damn, that shootout was one of the best ones I've seen in a while. Greider manages to get the drop on his estranged brothers while I tried to do the same. He held better position and made good use of it, killing one unawares and forcing the others to fall back. Then he pulled some very clever tactics. He wounds one of his brothers to draw the others out for a clean shot. Damn, Greider knows what's up, and it makes me wonder what kind of shenanigans he got involved with back in the States. I did mention he had superior weaponry, and it certainly helped. Hans and his cohort were rocking double barrels and single-shot breech loaders, not exactly top-of-the-line hardware. Those take a moment to reload after their meager volleys, while Greider continues to spit lead. It does explain why Hans would underestimate how many rounds Greider had left. He assumed 2 shots per reload, like himself, and that charge was disastrous. Also, just a nitpick, but at no point did I see Greider wrap his rifle. See, at those temperatures and elevation, actions have a tendency to freeze up. Modern firearms will jam in that kind of environment, so what hope does 19th century hardware have? Again, just a nitpick all things considered. The gunplay was tight and the kills were satisfying. Now for the elephant in the room, that exposition dump. It should have been split up into 2 parts. Delivered all at once, it sapped most of the tension out of the movie going forward and killed the intrigue that had been surrounding Greider. Keep the first dump right before doming the priest, but limit it to what happened to Greider's mother, her husband, and her parents, and how the innkeep sold them out. It answers the why to our boy's motivations while allowing Lutzi's B-plot to tickle the imagination regarding his parentage. Keep the intrigue alive right up until he confronts Brenner. Once he reveals the locket to the old man, cue the second half that explains how Greider's mother came to the village, the deal her parents made with Brenner, and that he did lay with her on her wedding night. It would have been better setup and payoff than what was given. Also, it would recontextualize the killings and possibly give some explanation as to why Greider got all teary-eyed before finishing the old man off. I mean, he didn't do that for anyone else. The poor bastard he used as bait in the cabin showdown, he let that fool bleed out. No mercy. So what's with the waterworks all of a sudden? If the exposition dump was split up like this, I could rationalize that perhaps Greider was feeling some manner of regret for what he did. And it could have made that scene hit a lot harder. Overall, The Dark Valley is a solid movie that delivers the kind of justified retribution sorely lacking from the current release slate. Despite its shortcomings, it's a satisfying ride packed with stellar performances, intrigue, tension, and satisfying action. Just a word of warning though, do not watch the English dub. Dear Lord in heaven, that has to be one of the worst dubs I've had the misfortune to endure. Original German with English subs is superior. The performances hit differently otherwise. Not ashamed to admit I've rewatched it a few times given recent events. These kinds of movies are a comfort in that they remind us that certain breeds of scum, sooner or later, get what they fucking deserve. They can also serve as a warning to folk before someone decides to really cross a line. As the great Dalton Russell from The Inside Man once said, the further you run from your sins, the more exhausted you are when they catch up to you. And they do.